It's always something. Just when you think they've pretty much got these things sussed out, and these vehicles are pretty perfect because they've been around for, oh, I don't know, let's say like 14 years or so, 15 actually. They come along and well, they make a new version of it. This is the 2014 Toyota 4Runner SR5 Premium. It is my personal vehicle. As you can see, it has been customized by all kinds of things. Look, I have Early up here. If you know your Squidbillies, there's Early. This is a off-roam holder for my phone. I'm going to go into that a little bit because it works really well. I'm going to recommend that product, and I never recommend products. But the bottom line here is this wonderful, wonderful vehicle is now got a usurper. Somebody who thinks he's just as good, if not better, than the version that we've all come to know and love for those of us that are fortunate enough to own one. Here we have the 2025, yes, it's a 4Runner, but it's an TRD Pro version as opposed to my SR5 Premium. When my SR5 Premium came out, there was no such thing as a TRD Pro. But this has all the bells and whistles, and subsequently, it costs, hold on to yourself, nearly twice as much as what I paid for my 2014, 11 years ago. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I want to show you every one. But first, I wanted to say something that's really interesting about my tenure with the vehicle so far. They really did capture the essence of what it's like to own a 2014. They've just added a lot of stuff. And changed a lot of things that maybe you'll like, maybe you won't, but we're going to look at them very, very closely and compare them directly to each other. And you can decide for yourself, should you be one of these people that goes out and finds you a used 5th generation, or should you go score you a new 6th generation? Stay with us. Yes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Here before you is our 2025 TRD Pro 4Runner. And unlike the blue one in the background, we have changed our drivetrain. That's the biggest change on this vehicle, actually, in my opinion. We have a completely different transmission, a completely different engine. And I mean, even in format. We went from a 4-liter V6 on the previous generation to a 2.4 liter inline 4 that is both turbocharged and in this case hybridized. This is also known as the iForce Max engine. So this is the top of the line power plant. I'll give you some numbers and stuff in a little bit. But as you can see, there's a real resemblance between these two vehicles. But there are differences. The proportions look about the same, but the fact of the matter is this newbie has a wheelbase that's nearly 4 inches longer than this guy. This is about 109 inches, and this is 112 and change. So even though the proportions look the same, it's actually a bigger vehicle in terms of wheelbase. It's physically slightly larger. But yet, as we will discover, it actually has less interior room in it. I don't know how they manage that, but I will tell you this right off the bat. There's something very important that I found fascinating is they feel the same to me, room-wise. They really do. Matter of fact, they have managed to take this vehicle, which is completely new from the ground up, basically, and make it feel like the old one when you climb into it. And I have a lot of experience climbing into the old generation, the 5th generation, because I've been driving it for 11 years. So that is sort of remarkable. It also maintains a lot of other things that people love about 4Runners, including that famous rear window that goes down, just like the old station wagons used to do that. That still happens, which is fantastic because that's actually quite useful. And it's just something that people like, so there you go. It's wider than the 2014. It's a whole lot heavier. It's about 800 pounds heavier than mine. Again, we are comparing apples to oranges because this is the TRD Pro. And back when I got mine, there was no such thing as a TRD Pro. Mine's kind of a mid-level trim line, and this is way up. There are so many trim lines, believe it or not. You might think the TRD Pro is the top of the line 4Runner, but it's not. Above this, we have the Trail Hunter, and then we have the Platinum. So you have all these things. Another thing that makes the appearance kind of interesting is we have no running boards on the new one, and we have running boards on mine, and it kind of changes the appearance a little bit. It makes this one look like it's a whole lot taller. It's not. It has about the same ground clearance. There's so many things that they maintained from the previous generation, which I think is a very smart move. As you can tell, it's got that rugged, chiseled look to it, as well as a really fancy paint job. I'll go into that later, because they spared no expense. I'll go ahead and jump into the bottom line. We'll talk about this more later, but I paid between $38,000 and $39,000 for mine in 2014. This one has a sticker of $73,000. So, like I say, it's nearly twice as expensive as the engine it replaces. But it does have a lot of expensive things on it. Even the transmission's different. We're going from a 5-speed automatic on the 5th generation to an 8-speed on this one. There's a lot of things, incidentally, to the best of my knowledge, are very similar to the new Tacoma. In fact, it may be pretty much the same drivetrain. I don't know yet. We'll look into that, as you shall see. But I have a lot of useful options on this thing, as well as the TRD Pro package comes with a lot of very useful off-road bits and pieces that I think you're going to find interesting and useful. I mean, of all the new Toyota's trucks, I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of the new Tundra for a lot of reasons. And the Tacoma, I'm not a huge fan of the new Tacoma either. To be honest, I think they've made some odd choices. But I think they did a real nice job with the new 4Runner, and it's the vehicle I know best. So, for what it's worth, we'll go into now the most interesting aspect of this new vehicle, which is the completely different drivetrain that just happens to be a hybrid. Imagine that. Well, it is time for the big comparison. And as you can see, we have seen changes. One of the first changes you notice is the hoods on these things. The 2014 has hydraulic shock absorber lifter devices, so it's very easy to lift the hood. This one weighs a whole lot more, and you have to use the old-fashioned prop rod. I don't know why that is. I've heard people complain about that, and well, you know, whatever. That's not that big a deal, but it is kind of strange. There's a lot of strange things about the new one. Excuse me, but here we have our 2014 4-liter V6. It puts out about 272 horsepower and 270 pounds of feet. The torque horsepower peak is at 5,600 RPM, and the torque peak is at about about 4,400 RPM. It's 228 pounds of feet, by the way. Attached to a 5-speed automatic transmission. This has been a real good engine for me. I have had the biggest problems I've had with this vehicle have been rodents and trees. True story. The hood you see here is not the original hood. It was replaced about a year ago. Along with the right front fender, the windshield, and various bits and bobs because, well, first of all, I had to have the headliner replaced on the interior because of rodent activity ate through one of my wiring harnesses, which that was incredibly expensive to fix because they had to replace all the airbags. Fortunately, my insurance company, thank you State Farm, they covered all that. And then I had it home 10 days, and what happens? A tree falls on it. So that did a lot of damage, including, like I said, this is an aftermarket hood. It's an amazing thing. You rarely get OEM parts when it comes to bodywork these days. Now, these are very, very high quality parts that they put on here. That a Toyota dealership was the body shop that worked on it, and they were quite happy with the quality enough to please the insurance company by getting the lesser expensive part. But so far so good. I think they're fine. But otherwise, the engine itself, I haven't done much of anything to change the air filter. I change the oil every 5,000 miles. Changing the oil in this is a bit of a chore because this has a nice heavy steel skid plate. Incidentally, most of the 4Runner models, as far as I can tell, do not have that front steel skid plate. This one, the TRD Pro, this one right here, this one does have a huge, I think it says steel, I think, but it looks aluminum to me, but it's a very solid skid plate in the front to protect the underside of the engine. But the other ones seem like, and this is, like I said, this was standard fare back in 2014. All the 4Runner models came with underlying skid plates that were made of steel. And I have replaced my, my skid plate, my front skid plate and my fuel tank skid plate have both been replaced because I pranged the fuel tank one pretty bad. And it, it did its job, let me tell you what. Because a huge rock put a huge dent in it, but it protected my fuel tank. And the front one, the other R that bothers these vehicles besides rodents is rust. This one has so far so good, held up very, very nicely. But the front skid plate had a lot of rust that I didn't like, so I replaced it, put a new one on there. And when you change the oil in this, you're using the big cartridge form of, which a lot of people have a problem with, and I stayed away from it and had the dealer change my oil for years because I was afraid of it. You shouldn't be afraid of it. You get the proper wrench for the canister and it will come right off, and it seems to have a larger volume of filter space and oil space, whereas to the best of my knowledge, this guy over here has gone back to a conventional steel little canister type of oil filter. I haven't changed the oil on this new one, so I have no idea if it's difficult or hard. But interesting thing though, these are very, very different engines, and yet they use the exact same oil. They use 0W20 oil, which is something. Oh, by the way, and I do have, you may have noticed, I do have a winch on mine. The winch does not come and is not an option on the 2025 4Runner. Mine, of course, was aftermarket too, so I'm sure just looking at it, I think you could probably get a winch on there without too much difficulty. And I'm sure Warren and the other companies will probably make one. If they haven't already, they will. So, and I can tell you right now, there's fewer, more useful things to have on a vehicle that you actually use off-road. And in my case, I'm moving trees with it all the time that fall and block roads and things. I don't think I've ever actually pulled a vehicle other than like a Kawasaki Mule or a lawnmower that got stuck, or I like a big lawnmower that got stuck with my winch. This thing's never been stuck. It's real good. And I do have, of course, I have some very recent Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain. Are these all-terrain, or what do they call these things? Mud terrain? I don't even remember, it's so long ago now that I bought them. But these are LT tires, by the way, which stand for light truck and are much more robust in terms of their ability to carry weight and their ability to just generally take a beating. That's why a lot of the off-road vehicles, they much prefer to have an LT tire instead of your P-metrics. So there it is. Like I said, we have normal fuel injection. We do not have direct fuel injection. This has port fuel injection. Very, very straightforward. Mileage-wise, it's been real interesting. In the summertime, I get real close to 20 miles per gallon with this thing because I don't drive like an idiot. Wintertime, it drops to about 18, 17, 18, right in there. But I get good mileage with this vehicle, and these tires are not overly conducive to high mileage. The original tires on it, I used to get about 21 with this thing, believe it or not. But anywho, that's your engine. And one other thing I'm going to say about this vehicle that fascinates me, my curb weight is 4,675 pounds. But the newbie, the TRD Pro, the curb weight is 5,455 pounds. So it's nearly, you know, it's getting towards 1,000 pounds heavier. And yet it actually has the payload capacity on the 2025 is, where do I have that? I have that on my notes here, don't I? Yes, there we go. 1,050 pounds for the new one, but mine has a capacity of 1,700 pounds. So amazing, huh? It actually has a higher capacity. The towing capacity of the new one is 1,000 pounds higher. I will point that out. And it also comes with a, at least on this trim level, it comes with a trailer brake controller. So they're saying you can tow 6,000 pounds with it. So anyway, that's enough of that one. I know you're dying to see the hybrid version of the 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine that is turbocharged. So let's have a look here. What are our numbers? I'm going to give those right away. Because this is like really impressive for a four-cylinder engine. 326 horsepower at 6,000 RPM, and the torque is 465 pounds of feet at 1,700 RPM, very low. So that's very impressive in terms of like when you are starting from a standing start and towing a big trailer or something like that, or going up a very steep hill, you have a lot of torque on hands, which is very good for off-road driving. But we have another thing that's real interesting is, let me show you this real quick. This is what the braking unit looks like on the 5th generation. And this is what the braking unit looks like on the 6th generation. It's very different. Look at them, all them brake lines everywhere. They're crazy, crazy wild. There they are. And that's just because they've just redesigned the brakes on it. And they feel great. They feel good. My 4Runner, my 14 used to feel kind of less than optimal. And I have to be honest with you, it made a dramatic improvement when I put TRD Pro, like this vehicle, brake pads on this thing. It just seems to brake a lot better. I would advise you to do that on your 4Runner if you have a 5th generation, but be advised it can take months to actually get the pads, because I think they're really, really popular and in demand, as it was. So I actually have, right now I have them on here, right there, and I also have a box of them that you can't have, because when I need to replace the brake pads again, I already have my TRD Pro pads, you see. That's how highly I think of them. Okay, so on to our engine. This is the latest generation 4-cylinder from Toyota. It is called what's it called? It's called one of these. It's called a T24A-FTS. And we have, in the regular non-hybrid version, you have the same engine, which is also turbocharged, but there is no hybrid component to it. And unlike, say, a Prius or a RAV4 hybrid or one of these things, which are fantastic in terms of fuel economy, this is a completely different type of hybrid system in that it just literally is sandwiched between the engine and the transmission, and works more as an integrated motor assist than a full hybrid situation. Matter of fact, and I'll change this if this is not correct, but the electric motor on this vehicle has less power than we have a 2019 RAV4 hybrid, and it has a more powerful electric motor on it than this vehicle does. And that's actually true also comparing it to the new Tundra. Why is that? I'm not sure. The main reason they do this, they say, is to really fortify the low end and the overall horsepower numbers. But it adds so much weight, and it's, you know, I kind of wonder, should you spend that extra money for it? I don't think you should, personally. We'll see. Maybe this will get phenomenally good gas mileage, but I kind of doubt it. Something else you may notice right off the hand here. Let's look. Do you see? Do you see? This has an engine cover covering up that V6, and the new one does not. There's no engine cover at all. Instead, they rely on a lot of this insulation up here in the hood to help quiet the engine down. These things can make a lot of racket when they start up because it has both direct fuel injection and port fuel injection, which is common to all the new Toyota inline 4 engines. And it's a very interesting system because it uses whatever is the best thing for it to use on the day. In other words, what part of the rev range, the load on the engine, and everything else, this all determines which type of fuel injection system. And I think it can even use both at the same time. But when it starts up, it's usually the direct fuel injection, and that direct fuel injection is under so much pressure because it has to overcome cylinder pressure in order to squirt the gas in there. That pump makes a lot of noise, so you can really hear it when you first start these things up sometimes. It's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, it's just the way it is. It makes a lot of noise. You have all kinds of cooling going on because you have both the electric component that needs its own cooling system, and then you have the fact that this is turbocharged. Now, how is this laid out? Well, first of all, this is something that's very funny to me. Easy peasy to change the spark plugs, because here they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Easy peasy, but the thing is you only have to change them every 125,000 miles. So that's great that they're easy to get to, but it's not a real priority, but it just happens to be the way this is. Something else I'll tell you about the fact that I like this, the fact that it doesn't have an engine cover, is rodents can't hide underneath there. They can try to get, into your fuel injection and stuff. Incidentally, this side over here is your turbocharged side, which your exhaust manifold right there. And this is your intake side on the driver's side. But anyway, the rodents can't really hide as effectively as they can if you have an engine cover. And if you have a vehicle like mine that's never even seen the inside of a garage except at the Toyota dealership when they're doing some servicing or something, it's a real problem with every type of vehicle, whether you have a lawnmower or and by the way, if you have a full electric, same thing. I mean, they get everywhere, and a lot of them, depending on the nature of your wiring, they really love to eat your wiring. So just FYI, be careful with that. We have, we'll start over here, incidentally, with something very interesting. A massive TRD Pro air intake. And it goes down in yonder, and it goes into the turbocharging system, which then takes the hot compressed turbocharged air, puts it through an intercooler, which I believe there's a lot. I don't know if you can see it here because we got, that's for your LiDAR, that's for your camera system in the front, that's a fog light bar. I mean, there's so much here. But behind all this, we have an intercooler and your radiator cooler system. And your radiator cooler system is pretty vast anyway because it's cooling a lot of things. I don't know if there's a separate cooler for the transmission. Probably not, but there may be one. I don't know. But anyway, if we were looking at, we may, if I have the opportunity, I'm going to literally compare this to a non-hybrid version if I can get a hold of. I have a friend that has a new Tacoma. And I shouldn't promise these things because I'm probably not going to be able to get down there in time. But anyway, the electrical component is primarily over here. It's your control box. The motor itself is, like I said, it's sandwiched between the engine and the transmission, and that's what kicks your power up from the normally aspirated version. Now you may notice one thing. I don't see any 12-volt battery anywhere. What's this here? What's this here? Relays and fuses. Thank you, it says so on there. So the battery, I believe, is in the rear, and we'll look around and find it. The 12-volt battery. 12-volt batteries are very, very important they have a very different function on hybrids. And to the best of my knowledge, this thing probably doesn't have a conventional starter motor. The hybrid motor is what actually turns the engine to start it. And the whole system is run by an elaborate computer system, as you can imagine. And that elaborate computer system has to start up via the 12-volt battery. So that's what your 12-volt battery does. It also does some ancillary accessory work to keep the power going with all that kind of stuff. So you can see very easy to get to the serpentine belt. There is a serpentine belt on there. There's your alternator. And look at all the plumbing on this. I mean, a lot of this is wiring, but there's also a lot of plumbing involved here. And it's all involved with keeping everything cool. With this engine generates a lot of heat for its size. And whenever you see a lot of horsepower, be advised that means there is a lot of heat as well. So everything, like I said, it uses 020 oil, just like the classic. And by the way, did I ever apologize for the fact that my engine's so dirty? My whole vehicle's dirty. I just cleaning. I actually got asked by a company once, back when I was covering primarily motorcycles, to write a book about motorcycle detailing. And I said to them, do you have any idea? Do you know who I am? Because I'm horrible at keeping things. The internals on engines, I keep them spotless. Filters, oil, everything, I always keep that perfectly. But when it comes to the actual cosmetic appearance of the vehicle, I'm not very good with keeping everything maintained. I apologize for that. Here's our coolant reservoir for our engine, and here's our coolant reservoir over here, right here, for our electrical system, for the hybrid motor. So that's where all that stuff works. And is there anything else I can show you here? Boy, I just can't wait to change those plugs though, because it's going to be so easy. That's easier than on the, I just did it on our RAV4 hybrid, and that was easy to get to, but this is just blows everybody out of the water about how easy it is to get to. So what do you think? It's packed in here pretty, you still have some room around here. It's packed in here pretty good. And you look at the V6, which, like I said, this is a 4-liter. Look at the size of the heads on this big dude. And then right down there is your serpentine belt, original serpentine belt. And we have a lot of, you can see some corrosion here because this is the rust thing I was talking about before. This vehicle is not bad yet, but I really need to keep an eye on it because my previous generation, 1997 4Runner, I had to literally get rid of, and I think I moved at that point into a RAV4 for a few years because of rust. It just rusted out. And my 88 was, my 88 was destroyed. Although my FedEx driver bought it from me. He was real interested in that vehicle. And I remember it had a 5-speed manual transmission. And his wife was driving it. I was behind her, and she had the kids in the back in their car seats, and she drove that thing beautifully. God, she was a smooth shifting mama. They seemed to really enjoy that vehicle. I think they've moved away, but they were happy. But anyway, that's what your engine looks like after about 75,000 to 80,000. 11 years in a rust belt. It's not bad so far. But God, you got to keep an eye on this stuff because between the rodents and everything else, they're after you. So that's the old, and this is the new, and a lot more complex, but we'll see. I mean, without any hesitation, I always tell people the same thing. I think you're better off not getting the first year when a new system comes out, new engine comes out, new major component come out, or especially in the case of a complete redesign. Now, I broke that rule in 2019 when I got a new RAV4 hybrid because there were a lot of changes on that. It wasn't as radical as this, comparing it to the 6th generation to the 5th generation 4Runner, but there were a lot of changes. And I took a chance, and so far, so good. We've been fine. It's been very, very reliable vehicle. So, but in the case of this, there's been tweaks. You'll see on your YouTube, some people are saying there's transmission issues with the 8-speed automatic. I don't know how true any of that is, or how widespread it is, if it is happening. Don't believe anything you see on YouTube, except when they show you how to, change spark plugs on your Briggs & Stratton engine. Those are probably pretty good. And you can always trust, always trust Terrell, because Terrell fixes all. Now I want to illustrate something I've been talking about, how they completely redesigned something and yet it's so reminiscent of the previous generation. This is the mirror on my 2014, and check out the mirror on the 2025. It's a little longer, as you can see, it's a little bit longer, but they're very, very similar in styling. And this one, of course, has a lot more stuff on it, including a camera on the side. But they both fold in just like that, so when you're doing your trail work, it's very easy to put them in. But just from a styling standpoint, they're very, very similar to each other, and yet they're different. I don't think they probably share a single part. But the whole vehicle, the whole new 4Runner is like that. There's so many things that are so similar. You get a good look at the side here of each of them, and you can see the architecture is very, very similar. The 2025 is actually slightly taller. And one thing that makes things look so different is this thing looks like it's higher off the ground. I think I mentioned this before, because it doesn't. This one doesn't have running boards on it. Naturally, there's several different ones you can get as an option. This one just doesn't have any. And mine has a particular type of running board that was also a Toyota option when I bought it. So that makes it look different, but at the same time, there's still a great similarity in styling between these two vehicles. And I think that was a really smart move. That's what you do if you have a very popular vehicle and you're completely replacing it. You want to make sure it has the things that people liked on it before, and keep those intact, and then move on and make your improvements. Well, TRD, which stands for Toyota Really Digs It. Well, it may not mean that, but one difference I noticed right off the bat was between this and my 5th generation SR5 Premium was wheel size, and subsequently tire size. It's kind of unusual, but my 4Runner has a 17-inch wheel on it. It wasn't unusual for that species, but for here, now that we're in the 2000 and we're a quarter of a way through this century. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But this has an 18-inch wheel instead, and this is your TRD, really fancy. How many spokes we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes. We have a total of also 6 lugs, which is what we had traditionally on my 4Runner, and it was a real interesting thing. The new Tundra has 6 lugs. The last one had 5. And they had a tendency to swell up their lug nuts. I can relate that myself, because we've had to replace several lug nuts on our truck because it got all swollen. And I think it's because there weren't enough of them. I don't know. But anyway, our tire size is 285/70 R18. These are open country ATs from your friends at Toyo Tires. And it's not an LT tire, as I mentioned before. It's a standard P metric. And it seems to be a very good tire overall. It does not have the tread depth of my Falcons Wild Peaks, which just seems to have a whole lot deeper tread. These have 4,000 miles on them. So there you go. Now inside there you can see that beautiful upper control arm that's made out of, it looks like it's made out of aluminiums. And thus would be lighter and give you more unsprung weight. Then you have your nice big red TRD spring. So I think this thing is got a little bit of a lift to it, but I haven't actually seen that confirmed anywhere in the literature and specifications, which I find kind of unusual. There's our new frame, which looks a lot like the old frame, but I have this theory about the frames, by the way. The new frame is the same frame basically. It's the same basic framework, if you will, the same template for this, the Tundra, the Land Cruisers, the Tacoma. They all have the same frame, I guess, in the economies of scale situation. But I don't know how it stacks up to the old frame, because it seems to me it looks, the sidewalls and things look thicker on it, and it's boxed, fully boxed, like the old one was, but it looks like the gauge in the metal is actually thinner. So what they've done is they've ultimately gotten probably the same strength as the previous generation, if not more, stiffness in certain places, but they've done it with lighter weight. But I don't know, this thing, like I say, it weighs 800 pounds more than my 5th generation, but it does have the hybrid power plant. But then again, a 4-cylinder engine that's just over half the size of the V6 in mine. So figure it all out. There's our longer wheelbase, 112, I think, 0.2 inches. Nice and stretched out there. And you can see there's a little bit of change in the rear window architecture, but overall, it does look an awful lot like the previous generation. And I think that's a real smart move. You can see the lower, with the fact that this doesn't have any running boards on it, you can clearly see the front placement control arm for your rear suspension, which is it's not a multi-link, it is a straight axle with coil springs, but that's what it had before. And that's what it's had for years, several generations now it's had that. So there you go. We'll take one quick look. I'm going to look a lot more depth into the rear cargo area, but I will just show you that you got your winder here that you can lower and upper. See, look there, I lowered it a little bit. Now I'll put it back up. How about that? That's new as far as being able to do it externally. Here's your 2 cameras. You got 2 different cameras looking out back. We go into that in depth. And a nice big wide bumper step on there, which is good. And this, of course, not all of them do. I point this out, but this does have the power lift gate. Oops, sorry. There we go. And there's our cargo area with this huge rise right here. That's a compartment, but this huge pedestal that ultimately the hybrid battery resides underneath there, but that could also, on other models, be a 3rd row seat. So there you go, for your knowledge. And that is all we're going to do here now, because we'll get into that much deeper later. But as you can see, wide track, wide tires, it's a Trailmaster, this thing. No question about it. Come let us enter the 6th generation. Now, as you can see, we don't have a helper here. Don't have a helper on the 5th generation either. You got to grab a steering wheel, because we don't have any running boards on this one, but I'm sure you can get all kinds of rock sliders and all kinds of stuff. Let's fire it up here. Fire it up. There we are. Now, as you can see, we do in fact have a flat screen simulated analog. Well, it is analog, but it is simulated. It resembles the mechanical of the 5th generation, but it doesn't look near as good in my opinion. But we have a few things we can do to change that. We can do this. We can press this button here. Driving support, adaptive cruise mode, blank, driving support, settings. That's for us. Let's go there. LDA is lane departure assist. I think I've turned that off. Let's look, shall we? Don't look, that doesn't do it when I do that. There we go. Lane departure assist is turned off. Good. That's how I like it. But blind spot, we have that turned on. We have all these different things turned on. But this is your main bunch of settings right here. A lot of stuff when you go backwards to keep you from crashing into stuff. Basically, That's what we have, and it's very, very important to keep that stuff turned on, because that can really be of great significance to your insurance rates. Here we go with the meter settings, which we will now examine. Meter type, meter style. Well, first of all, what's that? Well, we have these three. This is what we have it set on now. Then we can go there, and we can do that. We can have a center display that will have our tachometer plus a digital speedometer. And the way I have things set up right now, and you can do this, I think, in any mode, I have the turbocharger over here. As far as what this gauge right here will tell you what the turbocharger is doing, and this gauge over here will tell you what the hybrid system is doing as far as the amount of assist it's giving you. So think about that for a minute. And then we have to go up here, and this gets rid of the tachometer completely and just gives you your basic speedometer. But at the same time, you have your oil pressure, which, if that's oil pressure, that's really low. Well, here, let's do that. I'll give it some gas. There we go. Okay, that's good. So maybe that's with the... Boy, that was really strange, wasn't it? Look at it drop back down. I don't know what that is, except for the fact that the engine running? No. That's why our blood pressure, that's why our blood pressure went down so much. Actually, my blood pressure went up because I was unaware as to what was happening. But anyway, you do have these different choices. Personally, I prefer this one right here, right here. And we can go back and look at meter style, sporty, tough. I like that better. It's tough. Or smart. This is in fact a representation of the smart looks more traditional, don't you think? I kind of like the smart. I may have to go with the smart. And then you go up and you go casual. This is the loafer of the instrument cluster availabilities. Well, what do you think? I kind of like that. Tough is just tough. No, that doesn't really do anything. Sporty is what we had it on. Sporty I don't like at all. Well, I'm glad I can change that now. We'll go to smart. I like smart. Smart is smart. I like that. But we also have our temperature gauge and our fuel gauge, which will tell us when we're running out of gas, which is sooner than should be with only 19 gallons available. I'm not going to shut up about that, by the way. I really think that is the weirdest thing ever, that they've knocked 4 gallons off the fuel capacity. Wild, huh? Okay, let's go back here. And is there anything else we really need to look at? I don't think so. But like I said, if you go off to the right, there's our electric boost gauge set up right now. But you can also go engine, transmission, oil temperature, trailer mode, blind spot warning, pitch and roll, tire pressure, trip B, trip A. Trip A is my favorite, so we're going to leave that up. Have I really driven this thing 139 miles? No, I don't think I have. Have I? Where have I gone in this thing? Thinking. I know I reset it. Wow, that must be right. I guess that's right. God, I don't remember where I've been. I don't remember where I've been. So anyway, now if I give it some welly here, the engine starts up, then we get our tachometer going, and you don't see anything happening with either the turbocharger or the hybrid content, because right now we're just putting along on our little 4-cylinder engine without any assist from anybody anywhere. So that's interesting. But anyway, that is our instrument cluster. I'm sure glad I found this other. This looks more reminiscent of the 5th generation in terms of the instrument cluster. Now let's go into look at all the switches you have here. I mean, my God, this thing is covered. Before we even get to the steering, we'll start over here and look at all this stuff. This one here is great because that can adjust your headlight. If you're towing a trailer or if you're hauling like your gold bullion, is that right? Bullion? Well, your gold bricks in the back and the rear end is practically hitting the ground. You can adjust the headlight so you don't blind the oncoming traffic. Rheostat for your level of lighting.
This is to access the fuel filler cap. And why does it have a separate one when most of them don't these days? That is because it is a hybrid, and there are all kinds of emissions things associated with how the hybrid does things. This is true of all Toyotas, and probably all hybrids in general. And what it tells you is you'll have a limited amount of time to actually access the cap before it seals everything up again. So, because there's a lot of emissions just from fuel coming out of your vehicle, believe it or not. It's actually not insignificant. So, that's how you access your fuel filler door, just like that. Down here we have on and off for our automatic headlight dimmer. If you're driving along at night and you have your brights on, it'll dim them for you. Traction control off. 120 volt AC on or off. This is your, this has the power lift gate. There we go. You see we're opening up just like that, and then you can close it. This is not available on every 4Runner model. Some have the traditional lift gate like my 5th generation does. So that's an interesting thing. It's available on some trim levels and not on others. This is the story of this vehicle, by the way. For example, if you want an SR5 and you want a sunroof, you're out of luck. Moonroof, I should say, sorry. Look at all down here. Look what we got here. These are all your auxiliaries, so you can put all kinds of things to put additional driving lights, who knows. But speaking of driving lights, right down here is our TRD light bar. That's pretty damn cool right there. Now, it won't go on because it's too bright outside, I guess. I'll try it at night and we'll see what happens. And then we have the door, when the doors open or shut, whether or not the dome lights come on, which why this is down here instead of up here, I don't know, but that's the way it is. Now the steering wheel, my God, look at all the stuff on the steering. This is, by the way, your TRD signature steering wheel that has the center marker there for you, so you know which way is centered. I don't know if I showed you, I think I did on my 5th generation, but we actually have a deal that shows the front wheels, a display. I don't see one on this one, but it may have it. It's got a hell of a lot of other graphics, which you're going to see very shortly. But anyway, on the left side, this is for our sound system. This is for talking to the car, if you're so inclined. And this is what I was just using to navigate through the instrument cluster information supplier. This returns you to back, and this says when you don't understand what this does, call that number right there. Just press that, and that will access your cell phone if you are, in fact, paired in this vehicle. On the right side is the cruise area. What do we have? We have a lot of buttons. Unlike the old tile, which my 5th generation had, which is down here, up, down, off, on, super simple. This is a lot more complex, and the reason is we have all kinds of different things. We have lane centering or lane tracing right here, which you can turn on and off. If you turn on the cruise like this, cruise control unavailable, you have to ship into drive. Thank you. I know that, but you have different... But I am kicking off. Oh, wow. Wrong mode. This is the, you see right down there, it's a very small mode. That is also your cruise control modes. You have old-fashioned cruise control without the adaptive thing. So in other words, you can just rear end somebody if you want. Then you have the adaptive cruise control, and then you have the cruise control that also has the lane centering. So all these things can be pick and chose right there. Up and down for your speed control, where you resume, cancel. There you go. Now, down here, this is like a bleed over from here, from your audio. You got the mode, whether you want the AM, FM, XM, whatever. No CD player, like on mine. That's where my 5th generation kicks this generation's ass, as far as I'm concerned. I still enjoy listening to the odd CD now and again. And this is you can put in your favorites and go back and forth with your favorites right there. So that's that. Very complicated, but you get used to it real fast, and everything is okie dokie. Up here, we have all your center for all your windshield wipers, since you have front and back. Very easy to master, very straightforward, very logical. And if we drop down, what's this? This is something that's very valuable. This is, in fact, your integrated trailer brake controller. So that if you this thing can tow up, they say, up to 6,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds more than the 5th generation. And having a trailer brake controller is excellent on this, because anything over about 3,500 pounds, I don't know if it's required in your state or whatever, but I absolutely think you should have it. Trailer brakes, if you're towing something that weighs 3,500 pounds or more, even though this thing weighs, 5,400 pounds, something like that. 800 pounds, almost more than my 5th generation, but this is the hybrid, and that adds weight, lots of weight. Moving on to the right, we have the 14-inch display, which I think, unlike the Tundra, which for some reason I feel like it's a bit awkward the way, and I think they've put it up too high or something. There's something about the way it's placed in the Tundra that I don't care for. I just think it makes the screen look way too big. This, for some reason, in my mind, I'm gesturing, my mind, I think it is much better integrated into the front of the vehicle. It just works there so much better, and it's nice and low, even though you have a pretty bulgy hood. More on that hood when we're underway, by the way. There's something about that hood I'm not wild about, but you'll see it. We'll talk about it. Yeah, it's I think a step above when the 22 Tundra came out. I think they've done a lot of tweaking to the interface on the center screen, because this seems a lot more logical than what I've had before. This is our navigation setup. I don't have my CarPlay activated at the moment. It's in my phone is far away. It's in the house. But it's easy wireless access to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which I use the navigation system app that I have, as opposed to this navigation system. There's nothing wrong with this, though. It seems to work fine. Whether or not you need a subscription in order to get real-time traffic updates and stuff, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to bet that may be the case. You have to have a subscription to the Toyota Connected or whatever it's called, to have all the access to the things the key fob can do. So that's just for your own edification. It really idles smooth, doesn't it? Well, no, it doesn't, because it's not running right now. That's one of the things. The engine stop-start seems to work very well on this vehicle. No doubt it's probably not got a conventional starter. It probably uses the hybrid motor in order to start, because it seems to start up really quickly and really smoothly when you need it to do so. So, dropping down, here's our one lone knob for our radio control. Everything else you have to go through this menu, which I don't like, and I hate that. I hate the fact that I love on my 4Runner, we have a tune knob and an on-off volume knob just right there. Easy to use, even wearing gloves, but this does not have that. Now, I'll give them big points for the fact that it's enormous. That's good, but otherwise, look at but if you want big knobs, if you're in search of a big knob, look at these adjustments for your climate control here. You have two zones, both the driver and the passenger zones, and they're synced together now, but this is how you adjust your temperature, these enormous, and that's nice and easy, so I'll give them points for that. You also have some buttons down here, depending on if you want to take it off the automatic mode and manually run all this stuff, you get to do that. It's right here, and here's our rear window and outside mirror defroster unit, which is just an electric thing that goes through a bunch of electric lines in these various glass surfaces, and that's a fantastic thing. Every car should have those. If yours doesn't, get it. Well, I don't know how you get it, but anyway, we have heated seats. We have cooled seats, which I have activated right now. And most of the other controls you're used to. And these are nice and easy to access. I'll tell you something else that I like about this. And I've been round and round with the Toyota engineers on the Tundra about the fact that they have no knowledge of dogs, because where they put the controls down here in the console area is way too easy for a dog to mess with. And I tell you what, I know a lot of farmers, hunters, people of all
professions, the people that drive off-road and stuff like that, they have the dog with them. And you don't want the dog messing with stuff. Well, on my 4Runner, the 5th generation, the heat seating, we don't have ventilation, but the seat heating. I like heat seating. That's interesting. It sounds like yeah. Anyway, the seat heaters are located down here, and they're these rolly wheels. And my dog loves to turn those on, even if it's 104 degrees outside. He'll turn on both seats because it's so easy for him to just put his little paw down here and spin them. So that's a good place to put that. One of the complaints I made to Toyota about the Tundra is the 4-wheel drive, the drive mode selector, which is a slide thing, a little slide bar thing. A dog could easily hit it with a paw and put it in the wrong drive mode. And so I asked, did you guys do any testing with dogs? Because there's a number of things on this vehicle like that. And they said, no, we didn't. Well, there's your problem. You didn't test it enough. You didn't think enough. You didn't think, what kind of people drives this vehicle? Nope, never entered into them. So whoever did the 4Runner was thinking, because not only do you have these out of the way, but the actual selector for your drive mode is very, very solid. You squeeze in these two sides right here, and then there's your pointer. Yep. There's 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low, and 2-wheel drive high. Right there. It's very, very easy to access. Now, while we're in that particular mode, you have a lot of different things here you can access. First is the good old tow haul mode, which there you get a little indication right there. And that, of course, changes your gearing. And probably it may do something to your engine response. I don't know. But you have that. Then if we go over to drive mode, incidentally, you push the button on one of these and then use the dial here to do things. So like here's your sport mode, your normal mode, and your eco mode. And I usually leave it right there on normal. Now, where we get really interesting is if we go into 4-wheel drive. It's still blinking because that was my fault. I'm not going to blame the vehicle for that. I'll put her into drive and push forward a little bit. There we go. Now we are in 4-wheel drive. Now, our MTS is our terrain selector, and we have, look at this, auto. This 4Runner now has an automatic mode. The only thing it had before on the limited models, it had full-time 4-wheel drive. So you were always in 4-wheel drive, which is kind of the equivalent of having an auto mode when you think about it, because wheels would kick in when traction was lost, whether front or rear. That's basically what that happened. But this, if you want to access it on this one, you got auto here that you can put it on, even with it's a part-time 4-wheel drive system. Then we have dirt, then we have sand, then we have mud, hence the name mud spray or whatever the paint color is, and then deep snow. This all does a little bit of tuning to optimize the situation for you. And then you want to go even further than that, don't you? I thought you did. So what we have to do now, let's go into 4-wheel drive low. What do we do? Well, neutral. This is true with every 4-wheel drive I've ever driven in my life. 4-wheel drive low, pink. Parking support brake is now off. You are in automatic mode at 4-wheel drive low. Now, what if I want to crawl? Here's our descent control and our crawl control right there. You press that, brake on, there we go. Yeah, hello, it's not, oh, I know what the problem is. In order to actuate this, I'm still in neutral from shifting, right? So I got to put it in drive, boop. Now we're in 4-wheel drive low. Little light right there, and we turn on the crawl mode, and there's our crawl mode, and here's our speed adjust. If you look right here, you can see I will adjust the crawl speed. Let's put it on low. Let's do this. And then we're in drive, and let's see how slow we go. Ooh, we're going slow. We're on flat, but look, I can feel it braking. See, it's flashing. It's turned off the traction control. This is like the maximum amount of traction you're going to get using all the electronics. And the camera just came on in the front to tell me I'm about to have an accident. So let's back up. We're going to back up then.
But depending on what you want to do, yeah, it's interesting. It's putting the brake on, putting the brake on, putting the brake on. As far as the descent side of things go, I believe it will actuate when it can tell. It's got sensors that will be able to tell. Why are you doing that? There we are. Parking brake support off. Oh, it's just telling me. If the vehicle is actually pointed down, such as like so, the descent control kicks in, and if you're going up or level, that's when you get the crawl control. So how do I get out of all this mess? Well, I'll press the MTS button and it turns that off. So I'm just now in four-wheel drive low. Front collision is off. That's because you may be encountering huge obstacles. Your traction control is off, and your safety sense, the full safety sense bucket, is now no longer on, I guess. I mean, I'm guessing that's what that means. There's so many things. But here we go. So let's go back go down to neutral right there and move us into four-wheel drive high. Boom, we're in four-wheel drive high. Now, let's go into two-wheel drive. How about that? You ready? Squeeze, turn, squeeze and turn. There we go. And we are now in drive mode with just the rear wheels, and all is good with the world. So it's very, very, if you've ever driven a four-wheel drive vehicle, this is just the same thing. It's just, you have more options in terms of your terrain management controls that allow the computers to do a lot of the traction control, let's put it that. That's what it ultimately comes down to. They're all about all these systems are designed to just get you up and get you down the hill, no matter what the hill may be. And if it's rock, if it's whatever, it will help tune to use everything. And it's more than anything else, it's still the same stuff that's on the 5th generation. It's using wheel speed sensors, but then it goes into some very, very elaborate software that will help to interpret what the wheels are doing when one is slipping and one isn't, and the way to maximize traction under that circumstance. So that's what this is. Excuse me. You get a lot of that on all the manufacturers these days, but this is Toyota's been very, very good with their crawl control. Some pretty amazing things. If you've seen Toyota vehicles extricate themselves, and a lot of this software was available on the 5th generation, if I remember right. My vehicle, there was no such thing as a TRD off-road package. What there was a trail package, and it had some crawl control and things on it. But I think this is probably yet another step forward as far as even more sophisticated software. So, just so you know. Now, while we're here, let's play with some other things. We've done all these things, and now let's go to this thing. This is your trailer. If you push that down, no save trailers. You can literally program this thing to see the trailer and what size it is and everything else, and it will help back you up if you have trouble backing up a trailer. My suggestion is to learn how to drive your trailer. It's not that difficult. It really isn't. Okay, I'm saying okay. Where's okay? Okay, okay. No, don't add a trailer. Go back, go back. There we go. Next to that is our view. We have a 360, and there's mud bath, our paint scheme roughly, although the wheels are different on this one. But this allows you to do all kinds of things. And here is a rotating version of our 360-degree cameras. That's the back of the vehicle. That's the, let's see, which side is that? That side. And this is the front. You get the idea. Oh, look, this is one of the most useful ones of all, in my opinion, is directly overhead looking down, because that can be very, very helpful when you're on a trail in particular, but also just when you're parking the car. Very useful. Now, this one right here, this is our differential lock, and it won't lock, I don't think, unless you're in four-wheel drive. But that's your differential lock switch. And then here we have our stabilizer bar disconnect. And what that does is allow the stabilizer bar to no longer stabilize you, to go limp basically, and so that it increases the amount of front travel you have with your front suspension. So that's really good for rock crawling and just those periods where you're really trying hard to keep the wheels on the ground. It's one of the best ways to get up a trail is to have the wheels on the ground. If they're up in the air, they don't do much for you. So that's to help make that happen. What else? They have reconfigured the cup holders from a longitudinal orientation to a transverse orientation. Why'd they do that? I don't know. But you got this great thing which is fairly stout for your passenger to grab on to is when they think you're about to kill them. So don't do that. I mean, it's there for them, but I don't know. Hang something off of it. That's what I'm thinking. Here is our console. Far less room than the previous generation because I got like 2 days worth of changes of clothes, and I think I have, what else do I have in there? I think I have a Black & Decker workmate. I got all kinds of stuff in my console. But anyway, looks like there's a little less room. As in this side pocket where I keep my first aid kit in my 5th generation. There is a first aid kit with this vehicle though. I will show it to you, which is extremely valuable to have. And one of the best things about this vehicle is having a thing like a first aid kit. I'm big on those. You got to have one for your car, folks. Don't be crazy. Before I go over to the seat, we'll go up here right now, and they have moved, like, again, in the quest to make sure the dog doesn't open the rear end window like mine did all the time and does all the time. The switch is right here, and you see down it goes. And then you pull back on it like that, and up it goes. It's not down here in the way, it's up here, and that's fine. I think that's a good place for it. Along with your controls for your moonroof, sorry. And you got your shade right here, which is manual, just like on the 5th generation. Works fine. But like I said, getting a moonroof on these things, it really depends on your trim level. And a lot of them, you can't get it. I don't know why that is, but that's the way it is. Oh, did I share with you the QI? Down here you have the QI, the wireless charging for your smartphone. It's right down here. It's a better design than Toyota's had in the past. It seems to work a lot better. More reliable. Keeps charging with it when you go over bumps. Here is your USB-C ports, 2 of those. And that's good. And here's your 12 volt down here. So you got all this stuff. And wait till you see what this thing can do with AC current. Oh my gosh. It's so impressive. It really is. Seats. We were talking about seats. These have the same type of material in the upholstery as in my vehicle, which is Softex, which is a leather-like man-made type of thing. And it's really good stuff. I can't say enough good things about it because it's every bit as tough, in my experience, as a leather, but it's much more resistant to water, and just generally speaking is very, very comfortable. And you have the perforated with the underlying pattern. I mean, this is very, very hot stuff here. Look at TRD Pro, Toyota. Nowhere, it doesn't say 4Runner anywhere. I don't know why that is. That's weird to me. $400 for those mats, by the way. That's the whole vehicle, but still. This is where your ventilation comes through when you use your ventilation, as I'm doing now. So these seats are excellent. They really good support, really good lateral support during aggressive cornering or just driving down the trail. They did a real nice job with the seats. They are perfect as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why. I know that on the Tacoma you can get some kind of a suspension seat, but what the hell are you doing that you would need that? Seriously. Don't race your truck and then take it to work. I mean, well, that's crazy, man. Don't do that. You got to depend on your vehicle. Race vehicles are race vehicles. Street vehicles are street vehicles. Okay, here's our accessing. Boy, there's a lot of noise there. What is that? You know what that probably is? Can you hear that? That is probably your digital direct fuel injection. I think. Either that or something's loose. But digital fuel injection, I've mentioned this before, can make a lot of racket. There's your frame in there. Very nice. Oh, I'm sorry. Back seat. We open almost 90 degrees, but not quite. You got this excellent, my vehicle does not have this right here. Look at there. Oh boy. In you go. And the room is slightly less than on my, here, I'm gonna turn that on. It's slightly less than on my 4Runner, the 5th generation, but not enough to be really, really noticeable in my opinion. It's close enough. One of the things that is interesting though, it seems to have a little bit higher drive shaft tunnel than mine does. I noticed that just by looking at it. And I'll have to go look again, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. But you do have wondrous things. You have vents. We have vents on my car too. But right here are USB-Cs, but here is the magic. You open this up and you got an AC outlet right there, 2,400 watts. Not bad. That's impressive. You have a nice high, almost, it's not stadium seating, but you have a nice high ride height and a nice low belt line so you can really see the scenery. And how about our window? All the way? Look at there, there's that 5th generation right there. Yes, all the way down. Very good. What is missing? Map lights. There are no map lights here. You just get this guy. I don't understand that. That's the same thing as mine. Now I can understand that. That was just a lowly SR5 Premium, but this thing is almost the top of the line. Although there are so many trim levels. You still got your, what's above this? The Trailhawk? No, that's Jeep. Trail Hunter. And Trailhawk! And then you have the Platinum on top of that. So, you know, holy cow. The armrest feels almost identical to the 5th generation to me. It's at a great angle, great height, very, very comfortable. You could get 3 people back here, but for 2, I think it's nice. It's perfectly acceptable. And you got your beautiful little JBL speakers here to surround one with pleasant sound. And again, we don't have much in the way of storage right there, but you know what we do have? Really big bottle holder on both sides. You know, everyone back here gets one except the person in the middle. And it's a pretty good situation overall. It's not that much different from our friend, the 2014 next door, right there. So what do you think? Well, it's got a lot of room, but not an excessive amount of room. But then again, it's not the biggest vehicle out there. It's pretty comparable with everybody else. The area where it gets weird, and I'll show you that now, is if you choose to get either the hybrid version, this version here, which is one of the versions that has the hybrid engine, or the version that has the 3rd row seating, you can't fold the seats down the same way you can fold them down in the regular 4Runners. And I believe this is true for the 2025 SR5. This part folds forward like that, I believe. I haven't done it yet, but I'm assuming this. And then this guy folds down. But here, you can't do that. And the reason is very simple. It tumbles forward to get to that 3rd row should you have it. But it also, there's this big platform here that raises up, and that's where your hybrid battery is found, underneath there. So that's a real compromise. And you still, if you fold down both sides, you still have a good amount of room back here. It's not that bad. But my point is you have less than you had with the previous generation. But if you get the one that is not the hybrid and does not have the 3rd row seat, you know what? It's real close to exactly the same as on the 5th generation. In fact, it may have a hair more, but I basically would call it the same. So that's the thing, and I've already shown you this once, I think, but I'm going to show it to you again. And like I mentioned, or if I haven't, this lift gate, the power version of it, which is a nice convenience, is not available on every model of 4Runner either. You do have the manual version that one over there has. So in here we have a lovely little array of stuff. You got your, look at there, first aid kit. I love that. I love having that right underneath here, oh, there you got stuff to fix things. Right there you have your hybrid battery, and here, storage. You have storage here. You can put your fishing rod back here, and there's part of the that's where you get part of your tire repair kit, and it does have a full-size spare. But here's really interesting stuff right here. What's underneath here? Ugh. God, I've done this about half a dozen times. What does that say? Oh, there we go. There's your battery, your 12-volt battery, and it is white, so that means it is a Panasonic, which, with luck, unless something's changed, you'll get 5 to 7 years out of this 12-volt battery, because these are really, really good batteries. And that's because that's what you get if it comes from Japan. If you get it in America, you get an EverStart, or not, it's not EverStart, what's it called? Whatever Toyota calls their branding for the battery that's made in the USA, and it's not near as good a battery. Matter of fact, I had one that's supposed to last at least 5 years. It's guaranteed for that, and it quit after 2, you know, so go figure. Now, there's some more cool stuff back here, folks. These are, I believe, standard on all the 4Runners, these lower ones, but these upper ones, these LEDs up here, those are so cool, but they're $200 option. So you got to make the decision. Just like this over here. This built-in unit right here is, in fact, one of the cooler things on this vehicle. If I could just turn it on. There we go. Look, connecting port of the compressor may be hot, except. So they're going to make you acknowledge the fact that you could burn yourself on this, but I find that very funny for some reason. This is great. This is an air compressor, and here, right here is the little underneath here. There we go. That's where you plug it in, and if you'll go up here in this very nice bag that we have here, you can. Yeah. Okay. Accept. See? Accept. It's currently set at 33, and you can set it at whatever you want. And here is your line, your air line, your instructions. And on this other, hang on a minute. Stay there. Hang on. There we go. And then this compartment right here, you have a bunch of fittings. Like if you wanted to inflate your volleyball or something like that. But that's a beautiful thing to have. Built-in air compressor for all these things. There's only one problem. It's $1,500. Or $1,475, I should say. That's a lot of money for that air compressor. It's a really good air compressor, and it's built right in. But you know what I mean? That's a lot of cash. You just have to decide, and it's one of the things. If you're looking at a unit at a dealership and they want to sell it to you, and you're interested in buying it, that's something you can haggle about. Saying, "Well, I really don't want that, but it is convenient. I'll take it, but I'm not paying $1,500 more for it." So, you know the back and forth with the dealer. Either you'll win that argument or you won't. But like I said, the only thing that's bizarre about it, and this is just because of the hybrid and the third row seat people, you get this little lift right there, this little platform that reduces your space just a little bit. But on the whole, not all that much. You can certainly live with it if you want the hybrid version. And we'll talk about that in depth about, do you really want the hybrid version later on. But anyway, that is our inside and our outside of the inside of the new 6th generation Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. 2014 Entrevu 5th generation. Here we are in our 5th generation, slightly used 4Runner. You know, it looks filthy inside here. I spend an hour and a half cleaning, so you should do that every 11 years or so. All right, we have started. And here is our instrument cluster, which is pretty much, if I remember right, goes through the all the way through to the 2024, possibly. I think it does. But
I love this instrument display because it's very straightforward and very easy to use. You have your display in the middle here, which you can change to current, miles per gallon, the current range, 340 miles. Like I said, this thing has actually a more range than the new one because it has a 23-gallon gas tank as opposed to 19 on the new one. Figure that one out for me. There's your digital speedometer, should you desire. Look, this is where your front wheels are. Can you tell that there? See that moving there? Clever. Hydraulic power steering, by the way. Then you push and hold that for different settings. And then you go blank. And this is where I tend to leave it. That's my overall average since I've owned the vehicle, I think. 18.4 miles per gallon. I often get better than that during the summer and slightly worse during the winter. So that's not a bad average. But anyway, one of the things I noticed right off the bat with the new one is the steering wheel is very similar on the new one as the old one, which is great because I love this steering wheel. Controls are different. I mean, that's especially when it comes to cruise control. But you have your wireless phone stuff and everything else all handy. Windshield wipers on the right side where they should be. You got the easy activation of your fog lights, and you also have your daytime running lights, which you can turn off. Should you choose to do so. I leave mine on. They serve a purpose. Now here's the biggest change right here. I see a little flicker in that thing, but that screen right there is much, much smaller. The new one has, there's two different sizes, and on the TRD Pro, it's a 14-inch. Now it's interesting to me because the 14-inch on that one seems to fit better to me than it does in the Tundra, but I don't know why I feel that way, but I don't know why I feel a lot of things. But very large, easy to grasp tuning and volume knobs there, which, very traditional. This does not have automatic climate control on it. This was an SR5 Premium, and there are so many different options now in terms of your trim selection. It's amazing. Back in the day, 2014, there was no TRD Pro. There was a trail version though, which is kind of mimics what the TRD Pro became, but it didn't have a radically different suspension on it the way that the TRD Pros has compared to the 2025 like SR5s and things like that. We'll get more into that later, but as we head down here, we got our USB-A, no USB-C back then, and an auxiliary plug. And see this here? See this right here? That is called a CD player, and that's where you put your CDs, which is remarkable. Now, something I want to talk about, I recently got this. This is a cell phone holder from a company called Off-Roam. Let me take it off of here just a second. Hang on, you just slide this out like that. You can do it with one hand if you want. And you can bend it and orient it however you want, like that. Take it out, and this is an expensive item, but this is metal. This thing is built beautifully. It takes about 2 minutes to put it on, if that. I mention it because I started using, the navigation system on this is okay, but it's not fantastic. And I can't use WAS. This is in the days before Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So I can't use WAS through this screen. However, I can pop it right in here like so. I usually do this with two hands because it's easier to do it with two hands. And it stays put. It really is a solid, and it'll bounce up and down like this when you're off-road. I've tested this. And it stays in place pretty damn good. There's a little movement, but there has to be. But it's a very good mounting system, and it's a really, really good overall way to hold your phone so you can see it. And you can slide it up and down depending on, you have a lot of adjustability into how you orient it for your own use. And that's Off-Roam. See what they did there? R-O-A-M. But I'll put the link at the bottom. But I recommend it. $79, but it's money well spent, and you'll still have it when you sell this thing one day. You'll leave it on here because it's not going to wear out, and whoever has the next will be able to use it. And this thing opens up considerably wider for larger phones. I have a smaller phone in today's world, but highly recommended. Anyway, so there's our flickering. Sorry about the flickering. We come on down, and like I said, we have more of a manual type of climate control system. We don't have automatic. I believe they had automatic on the Limited and things like that. But we come down here, and here's our four-wheel drive selector, which I've always liked where it is. This is a good placement. The trail version had basically the same electronics, I think, but it had an actual lever down here. But this is, low 4, high 4, and high 2. And then our shifter, this is not the stock shifter, by the way, handle. This is a TRD Pro that I got years later because I didn't like the standard shifter, which was just this shaft. This has got your grip on it. This is much better. I love my shifter. And 5-speed transmission instead of an 8-speed, but very easy to access. Look at there. Manual, up and down to do your manual shifting. Very, very simple. There's your reverse. And right now my backup camera is not working. It's been doing that on and off a little bit lately. Hopefully it'll just start working again. That's what it usually does. I have to have my backup camera too, so we'll keep an eye on that. One of the few problems I've had with this vehicle has been that. And there's been all kinds of things. There's been rodents involved and everything else. Incidentally, the 14, the 5th generation, earlier versions of this, if you're looking on the used market, they had the older style cruise control. It didn't have adaptive cruise control at all. It wasn't available, wasn't invented yet. Man, it's getting hot in here. I'm going to turn on my air conditioner. Look at there. Put that there. Put that there. Press that button. Whee! Air conditioning on this thing works great, by the way. But anyway, I like the old system that Toyota used, but the new one has, as you'll see, a whole bunch of stuff up here instead. That's the way they like to roll. So the parking brake is an old foot parking brake that is cable actuated. If you use it all the time, then you won't have any problems with it. Occasionally get down there and spray some stuff on the linkage. But these things are notorious for, especially on pickups, the cable system for braking and rusting more than anything else, rusting up. The new one has the new electric version, which is a million times better in terms of serviceability and overall reliability. It works great. What do we have up here? We have our controls. This is our descent control, and this is our A-Track. Now, it's my understanding on the new version, A-Track is an advanced traction control system that you can only use when this thing is in 4-wheel drive low. And it just fortifies the already existing traction control and works great, by the way. Really, really impressive at how it's gotten me unstuck a couple of times. Especially this one time. There's this one time when I was stuck on a rock and it was able to extricate me. What happened to my map? What did I do with my map? Oh, there's my map. I like having my map up there. So I have seat covers on here, and I did that because I get wet diving a lot, and I just think general protection. And this has Softex seating on it, as does the new one, same kind of seating. But I'll tell you, I'm beginning to wonder how really necessary these things were, these seat covers, because this Softex, we have it on one other vehicle, and it is really durable, and it's also more resistant to water than say leather is. But it looks like leather, it feels tough like leather. It's a good situation. Now, the room, we have our sunroof, of course, up here with our manual shade, just like on the new one. It seems like it's harder to get a sunroof on the new versions, depending on, it comes with the TRD Pro, but like the SR5, I don't think you can get one. And that's a bummer because I like having a sunroof because I use it for photography and all kinds of different things. But, I mean, what are you going to do? They're messing with you. Don't let them mess with you. So, room is very good in the front seats. You got plenty of headroom for most normal mortals, and I think it's slightly less on the new one, but it's close enough for government work, as they say. I got so much stuff in here. By the way, See on that far side over there, that's your first aid kit. You should have a first aid kit. The TRD Pro came with one. I'll show it to you. But here's our back seat, and here is this wonderful material, this Softex I'm talking about. Very, very durable. I usually have a sound blanket. If in the motion picture business, it's the same blanket. If the sound department uses it, it's a sound blanket. If the grips use it, it's a furniture pad. If props uses it, it's something else. But it's the same thing. It's the same kind of a thing. So I'm hearing a weird noise. What is that weird noise? God only knows. It's old like me. But we have good room here, and this is one of the most interesting aspects of it. On the, helps if you do it properly. This is how the seats fold. Yeah, there we go. Well, I can't get this folded flat right now because I got all this rain gear right here. And if you look in the back, oh my God, look at all the stuff I have back there. There's my Max tracks and everything else. I love these. You can flip these down to see more readily what's behind you. But the thing is, on this version, on the non-hybrid version of the new one, you have a completely, on the non-hybrid like the SR5s and things, I believe you have the same kind of folding seats that allow you to make a nice flat load floor. On the hybrid version and the 3-row version of the new one, there's a pedestal back there, so it's not completely flat. You'll see that in a minute, but that's worth considering. I don't know why anybody would want a 3rd row in this because it's not that roomy really, but back seat is good. I have the front seat back quite a bit. I have my feet on the the snow scraper, which is going to be used soon. Almost completely flat floor. There's no real drive shaft tunnel there, which is great. We have a central, no map lights. We have a central dome light instead, this guy right here. But what's really interesting about that is that the new one is the same. The $73,000 one doesn't have map lights either. Why? I don't know. Window goes all the way down. Hello, there's the new one over there. What else? What else? What else? We have a very nice armrest here, which I will now deploy. And it's got your cup holders right there. There is no USB back here, I don't think, but there is a 12-volt port. And what is that one? Yeah, there's two 120-watt 12-volt ports, which is very nice for plugging in. You can eventually find a way to plug in your tablet or something else back here through the use of that, through the use of the 12-volt interface. But nowadays, you know, everything, you just get the USB ports. But as you can see, there's decent room back here. It has a little bit more than the newbie, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it feels about the same to me. So, deal with that. Okay. Now then, I do not have the power rear gate, but neither does a lot of the newer ones. Newer, like the SR5, I don't think has a power gate. But oh, look at all the crap I got everywhere. I can't show you the room back here. Well, it has slightly more room than the SR5 and the non-hybrid version and the 2-row version of the new 4Runner. It's roughly the same. The 60/40 folds down flat, and you have about the same storage space. Where you get into trouble with your space is if you have the hybrid version or the 3-row version, and then you have that pedestal I was talking about that's back here. But you don't have it on here, and here you got all kinds of, there's your jack and stuff is over here. This is a wonderful 400-watt AC port, which I've used many times. Lots of storage. There's your fire extinguisher. Always carry a fire extinguisher. And this I bought this later, this concealment unit thing. It really doesn't fit this vehicle perfectly, even though it's supposed to. I don't know if they ever actually, well, they definitely designed, because there's these little ports that you put it in. So they did design this for it, but anyway, so that's the 5th generation version of things. And you got this handy strap right here, or you can just take this right here and do that, like that. So that's that. And Again, we have running boards that we don't have present on the new one. And there is, I'm trying to find out, I can't get the specs that I was sent, that I got from Toyota, I should say, do not indicate what the ground clearance is on the new one. I think it's maybe about an inch more than this. But you still, this is misleading because of those running boards. It looks like it doesn't have as much ground clearance as it actually does. So, all right, enough of this. What do you think? Do you like the new one better? Well, let's look. We are motoring along. I'm fascinated. This is one of the most interesting vehicles I've had in a long time because I own the previous generation, and I'm very fond of it, and I know all its ways. And one of the biggest things that happens when you look at the new 6th generation 4Runner is sticker shock, right? But the more I dig into this thing, and this is the TRD Pro, once again, so it's loaded with stuff, it has a lot of stuff on it. And I mean a lot of useful stuff. For example, and I've already pointed this out, I'm going to point it out again because it's a big deal to me. It has a built-in air compressor that is very easy to use, and it's designed, it's not for an air suspension or anything like that. It is designed so you can reinflate your tires when you bleed them down if you're driving on the beach, or if you're driving in some real rough off-road situations and you want to take the tires down a bit. You can. I got something rattling over there, but it ain't the fault of the it's this thing. Hang on there, there. That's my camera mount. That's not the vehicle. This is rattle free, this thing, with its 4,231 miles on it. It's probably been hammered pretty good, although, man, is it clean. They did such a nice job of cleaning it up. Thank you, Fleet Company, whose name will be known as, well, I won't tell you the name. I don't know if they want their name associated with me or not. But the more you dig in, that air compressor is very, very useful. It also has a lot of other really great things, like this trailer brake controller right here. If you're towing a trailer, which you can tow up to 6,000 pounds with this, the great thing about it is it's very convenient, and it's really good to have a trailer brake controller. And it's right there. These things add money, add cost, way over mine. The screen's bigger. It has the most valuable sensing thing I think there is, in my opinion, and that is blind spot warning. I know it's a little thing, and on the 5th generation, the last few years, I believe it did have blind spot warning on it. But it has that. It has cameras everywhere. It has a 360-degree camera system. Those cameras are very useful, especially when you're driving off-road. That's great. That's good. This does have I haven't dug into this just yet. I've already talked about it to you, though. You know about it. But this vehicle does have crawl control. And that can be very useful as well, because it just lets you concentrate on steering the vehicle, and it handles the throttle. And I would imagine, especially given the fact that this has a mechanical engageable locking rear differential, this thing could probably not get stuck just about 99% of the 99%, let's say 90% of the off-road situations that you may find yourself in, unless you're just out banging up nature for no reason other than to drive your truck around, in which case, don't do that. We used to have this thing called tread lightly, and that's the whole point, is to do it. Go where you want to go where you need to go, but don't just go just to drive your truck around. That just don't. I mean, grow up, man. But if you have places you like to go that are remote and difficult to get to, This is a very good vehicle for that. If your work takes you into very difficult to get to areas, a lot of people do. Back when I used to work in the industry known as aquatic biology, I used to drive on the beaches of Texas to do everything from bird counts to find carcasses of dead marine animals and figure out what the hell happened to them. I had to drive on the beach pretty much every day, and once you learn the beach, it's different every day, by the way. But once you learn the beach, you learn your way around pretty good about how not to get stuck. But there's always these big areas that are really easy to get stuck in. But you need a vehicle like this, excuse me, that's really solid, that has a really solid drivetrain and plenty of ground clearance. And these aren't really the best tires in the world for that, but they'll do. They're good. These Toyo or whatever they are, they look like they're pretty good. And you have a nice full-size spare tire, I believe. I haven't fully checked that, but I'm 90% sure this may be the only vehicle that Toyota has for sale right now that has a full-size spare tire. Because even the pickups now, I don't know about the Tacoma, but the Tundra has a temporary spare tire on it. Are you freaking kidding me? You know, I've tested 2 or 3 of them, and they all had temporary spare tires. And I said, you've got to be kidding. That's so stupid. Because it's like they don't live in the real world that trucks function in. You have to have a full-size spare to keep going and finish the work day before you get your ruptured tire, your tire with a puncture, to get that fixed. I mean, it's just, what were they thinking? It's one of the this is the polar opposite, in my opinion, of the Tundra. The Tundra, they took out a lot of important capability with it. Yeah, it can tow more, and it has more horsepower, but other than that, there's so many things that they've left off of that truck, and there's some basic design things with it that are more suited to a suburban driveway than they are actually out working on a farm, a ranch, construction site, or anything else. This vehicle is the polar opposite of that, in that I think they have really improved it and made it more capable than the previous generation. So far, I am not in love with the drivetrain. Although the transmission hasn't even really been noticeable. It's been very smooth shifting. But my argument with that is the 5-speed on my 5th generation never had a problem with it so far. Oh, that's not true. I did have a problem with it, but it was an extremely rare problem. For some reason, my dealership had a real problem diagnosing it, but it turned out to be something very simple, and very easy and inexpensive to fix. And that is the park neutral switch. So if you have a 5th generation and your transmission is doing weird stuff, look there first, because that's an easy fix. And in my case, it was related to rust and salt that they put on and anti-melting material that they put on this liquid. And yeah, this thing, it's fast. I mean, it has a lot of horsepower. It has about 50 or 60 more horsepower than my vehicle does, but it also weighs about 800 pounds more. Well, in my case, that's not true, because I added 200 pounds with the winch, and then I've probably got 100 pounds of stuff I haul with me everywhere, tools and other things like that I use periodically. So there is that. Now let's engage let's engage here. Adaptive cruise control is on. I'm having a hard time getting this thing on, getting it on. Okay, there's that. There's the mode switch. There's that. There we go. Now we have it. Adaptive cruise control. Very good. And we're set at where I want it to. Well, I'll increase it just a little bit. Here we are. Now in a minute I'll try the steering, and we'll see how the steering is. This does have electric power steering as opposed to hydraulic, which the 5th generation had. And the electric power steering on this, feel-wise, is very good. It feels the same to me, basically, as the older generation. But that enables it to have the self-steering. If you're into the self-steering, which I have my thumb right on the button right there, I'm going to actuate it right now. So it's now steering itself. Now, this is a tough challenge right here for the LiDAR and for the cameras and everything, because it has to determine which way to go. And it has a real hard time when you go from one lane to two lanes like that. And it didn't do a great job back there, but I'll be real honest with you, 90% of the cars I test that have the self-steering feature, the lane centering, if you will, have that problem too. Now, a few things. I guess this probably has, I'm guessing, a performance exhaust, a TRD performance exhaust. It's noisy. And I'm not in, a lot of people, oh, I like your sound. I've actually seen, on some of these YouTube channels, they talk about, they go on and on about if it sounds cool or not. Well, I got news for you, boys and girls. That is, how the vehicle sounds is the least important thing you should ever consider when you're about to plunk down $50,000 or more on a vehicle. How it sounds should not be something that excites you. Unless you're 12, you need to grow out of that, because there's so many other things that are more important. But I will say this, when the exhaust is like it is on this vehicle, that droning noise, fortunately it has a really good JBL sound system in it that can drown that out. But as we're driving along here without the radio on, I can hear it all the time. And I don't like that, personally. It's like, I don't like straight pipes on Harleys, especially if I'm on my motorcycle and I'm stuck with a bunch of Harleys with straight pipes around. That gets real old real fast. And I think the same thing's true with all these exhausts that they're putting on. Let's see how we do here. This is very complex situation. That car is left. Boy, I tell you, the adaptive part of the cruise control works really well. I'm very impressed with it. I can actually feel it shift there. That's unusual, because like I say, so far this has been a very smooth shifting transmission. So here we test out the suspension of the old boy, the old girl, the old 5th generation 4Runner 2014. And like I said, the only thing I've done in the suspension is put on some Bilstein 5000 shocks years ago. I'd say probably 50,000 miles ago or something like that. I don't know. I wanted a little bit firmer shock. The shocks that came with this SR5 Premium Edition were good shocks. They weren't bad. But I wanted better. I wanted something a little more, I just read a lot about them, and people seem to really like them a lot. And Bilstein, of course, makes good shocks. So, although I will say one thing about them, they suffer from their rust problems too, just like everything else that drives around in places where they put salt and liquid disbursement materials on the roads to melt the ice that also destroys your car. They have problems with rust too, because I had a previous vehicle that had the Bilsteins on there, and they rusted to the point where I had to replace one, which was interesting because it had a lifetime warranty, and it took some doing to track everything down. But Bilstein did replace the shock for me, so I give them full credit for that. But one of the things you notice right off the bat between the 5th and the 6th, two things actually, three things. Two things that you notice right off the bat is A, on the road, not on the off-road situation, but on the road itself, this suspension has a lot more compliance and seems to ride better quite a bit to me, especially when you go over rougher pavement irregularities, frost heaves, and all that kind of thing. It doesn't ride like a Lexus, that's for sure, but it does ride a little better than the TRD Pro. Now, I'd love to drive the SR5 version of the new 4Runner, the 6th generation, just to see if its ride quality is better than the TRD Pro, because I think it probably is, because the TRD Pro is really set up for off-road work. And you just have to live with it the rest of the way it is. And, you know, it depends on how often you're going to go off-road. I think if you got the stock 4Runner and you know what you're doing, the number one thing you need to know about off-road driving is you need to apply common sense. It's not that complicated. And you'll learn, depending on what you drive and what kind of traction control systems you have, and you can optimize your getting down the trail accordingly. This just has four-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive low, part-time, just like all 4Runners that are not the limited version. The limited versions have always had a full-time four-wheel drive system. But this is a part-time system, and the TRD Pro is a part-time system. And it has traction control, first of all, but it also has ATEC, which is advanced traction control. And it works amazingly well. You have to be in four-wheel drive low to use it. And if you're in four-wheel drive low and you put on your ATEC, odds are you're going to make it. You're going to get out. I've gotten out of some pretty nasty scrapes using it, and it works well. That and the fact that you need to have good tires. That's a big part of driving off-road too, is the right tire for if you're driving on sand. There's specifically, if you do a lot of driving on sand, let's say you live near the beach or on the beach, and you drive on the beach, which is really rough on your vehicle, and it's not particularly good for the beach either. But if you do, you need to get some good beach tires that are biased towards driving on the beach, and you can bleed the air pressure down quite a bit. The tires I have on here are the Falcon Wild Peak 3s. 2s? 3? I don't know. It's a Wild Peak, and it's the LT version, which is the light truck version. And despite the fact that it's a much stouter tire than a P-metric version of the exact same tire, it's done really well. It does deliver, I think, a pretty good ride. It's noisier than the tires than the Toyos that are on the TRD Pro, but it does have much deeper tread. Even I have deeper tread on these things, and I've got like 10,000 miles on them, than the brand new version of the Toyos. And I'm not saying the Toyos are bad tires. They're probably quite good, especially in rain and the things you're going to encounter more often than you do when you're driving off-road, unless you drive off-road all the time. You got to remember that there's a certain bias that you need to observe towards driving on the road, and that's true with your tires too. Anyway, but I did notice, first of all, the suspension seems to ride smoother on most situations, and this suspension is perfectly good off-road too, by the way, but not as good as the Fox-equipped suspension on the TRD Pro. The other thing I noticed is this engine, the V6 4-liter, is, in my opinion, much, much smoother than the inline 4 turbocharged hybridized engine that's in the TRD Pro. It also, with 5 speeds, this transmission seems to shift smoother. To me, this is all just my experience and my bias towards trying to give you the straight poop as best I can. And you got to remember, I'm also giving you the straight poop on a particular vehicle, not on a line of vehicles. I mean, if I really tested cars the way I'd like to, I would never just test one version of the car in question, and I would not one example of that particular version. In other words, at some point I would test another TRD Pro. It's just a completely different vehicle, just to see if it does all the same things. With a company like Toyota, yeah, it's probably going to be identical, but you never know, and that's why it's real important to really examine things very, very carefully. When you're investing in a vehicle, you're investing a lot of money into something, unless you're just rolling in it. And it's a big thing, and you want it to last. And it also needs to be the right vehicle for you, so that you get something that actually makes sense. Like I said, the road noise is higher on this just because the tires make more noise. Wind noise is about the same. And I'll be real honest with you. this engine, the drivetrain in general, I like a lot more than the drivetrain on, let's do this. Oops, that's what I meant to do. What did I do to this? I don't know what I did. There we go. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, I know why. It's because I did this. I turned it down. But anyway, I'm always wrestling. The only trouble I've had a few little things go wrong with the 5th generation. One which was the park neutral switch on the transmission caused it to shift funkily. That's actually, the problem was diagnosis, because I'd never seen one at my dealership, which I go way back with, several vehicles actually. Had a little trouble diagnosing it, but once I diagnosed it, it was a very fast and inexpensive repair. It was just a park neutral switch they needed to swap out. And again, this was something I think that was completely related to rust. It had gotten into some of the attachments there to the electronic wiring, and they just swapped out the switch, and it's been great ever since. But the 5-speed on this just seems to work better to me. It's a better combination with the V6 and the 5-speed to me than the 2.4 liter turbocharged inline 4 and the 8-speed. I mean, gas mileage, I've gotten 20 with the new one, with the hybrid, and in the summertime, if I keep my foot out of it, I get 19 to 20 with this one. Now that's unusual for a lot of people, because I never get better than about 17. Well, it's because of the way you drive, dude. You got to learn when to coast and learn when to put the hammer down. Now this is a real interesting road, because this is a rough, chunky piece of pavement that completely different reaction to the suspension on the 6th generation. This is a lot smoother. It's still not the smoothest in the world, but it is smooth enough. And as you can see, I have zero trouble with the anything bad going on with. I'll go this way. Anything bad going on with the my holder here that I was talking about earlier. This thing works really well. Now here's some off-roadness here, and the suspension does real well on the 15. On the underside of the 4Runner TRD Pro. Wow, look at this. This is stout. This is beautiful. If you're a person that likes to drive an off-road vehicle, off-road, this is good stuff. We have a very substantial and very, very normal and very, very similar to the 5th generation rear suspension on our TRD Pro. It is fortified, however, by some massive remote reservoir shock absorbers. You see, hang on, the device is coming to you. There's what is, wow, is that an adjustment? That looks like it is. I don't know. Are you an adjustment? No, you're not. You're a cotter pin. Anyway. These Fox shocks are enormous, and then you have your coil spring right here, and this massive thing right here is your panhard rod, which is, of course, keeps your, laterally speaking, keeps your rear axle in position. Here is your front link, which is also a big old piece of steel on the lower side of this, and up top, oh, let's see if we can find it here. We're at a bad angle, but this is where it's mounted onto, right here. This is your, obviously, your front link here. So everything is being suspended by a series of links that are attached to this massive, massive rear axle. And there's our differential, and here is this beautiful $495, I think it is. I don't know if it's part of the regular package or not. For some reason, I think it's optional. I could be wrong. But anyway, that's our differential guard, so that goes smoothly over rocks should you encounter them in your off-road adventures. Tons and tons of ground clearance on this vehicle. And we have a nice steel skid plate, right, Chair, on our on the right side, on our fuel tank, on our little pistly little 19-gallon gas tank. Now, why isn't this bigger? Could it be bigger? I don't know. How could it be running into room problems? But maybe it is. You never know about these things. But look at this. We have our huge boxed frame, which is actually fairly deep. From it looks fat. It's a completely different. The frame looks very, very similar to the previous generation, as I'll show you, without the rust. But it's constructed very differently. It's a different type of construction technique. It's the same basic frame that's on the Tundra and the basic framework. And I see basic. There's changes. There's differences in all of them. But the Land Cruisers, I can't believe how stout this one cross member here is. It's huge. Who else? The Tacoma, all of them, all of their trucks, body-on-frame trucks, have the same basic type of fully boxed frame. Now, the fact that a frame is fully boxed, I'll go into it at length. I may, if I have time, I'm going to try to, looking for a hole there. Here's my theory about the newer frames. They are probably slightly lighter than the older 5th generation 4Runner frames, but I think they're made of thinner metal because the boxing is larger. In other words, the construction of the boxing is different than compared to the previous generation, but by making it out of lighter metal, they can make the whole vehicle lighter, in theory. It isn't any lighter in theory, actually. This one, the TRD Pro with the iForce Max engine, weighs almost 700 pounds or so more than my SR5 4Runner does. That's a lot. And that's not all through just because of the drivetrain. Well, who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe it's 100% because of the hybrid motor and various other things about it that just make it heavier. I mean, you do have this. That probably adds 8 pounds. Who knows? But it's very well constructed, this thing. And like I said, the ground clearance is superlative. I will actually go up front in a minute and show you the front suspension. These lower A-arms are massive. And again, we can compare them to the 5th generation shortly. We will. Or maybe the same time. I may do a split screen. Who knows what I may do? But again, it's very, very straightforward in how everything is put together. There's not a lot of complicated anything here, which is good. This is, compared to the drivetrain and the engine in particular, this is a very, very simple rear suspension that has a lot of travel to it. Matter of fact, I'll try to show you here. There we go. On the right side, we are compressed, and on the left side, we are extended. And the result is a lot of travel to keep those tires on the ground. And then in front, of course, you have the disconnecting sway bar, so you can increase the articulation of the front suspension when you're off-road. So, and I use that, and as you saw, and it definitely makes a difference. You can feel it. It's quite remarkable, actually. Keep those tires on the ground is what that's one of the things that you remember in off-road school. I've never been, but I imagine they'd say that. But look at how stout our, again, this is good for 6,000 pounds in towing, and you can see all the structure here that is, oh, that was me. God, do I have something underneath here? Like a tailgate release? I don't see one, but maybe I do. Hell, I don't know. But we do have a beautiful full-size spare tire. It is not, is it as nice a wheel? No. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it is. I think that's as nice a wheel, so you can rotate 5 tires. That's great. But it's a full-size spare tire, and it's actually tucked away quite good. It may look like it's hanging down quite a bit, but it ain't. It's actually very well tucked away. This is a pretty good recovery point right there. People say, "Oh no, that's just for that they tie it down on the." Well, you can use that as a recovery point in most situations. If you need really, really bad pulling, obviously use your hitch receiver and put some kind of a, depending on what you like to use, some kind of a shackle, and tow it out using the frame of the truck via the trailer coupling area, because that is the best way to use any kind of, if you're going to pull somebody out or get pulled out yourself, use that. That's the strongest part of the truck. You'll have no danger of anything breaking on this thing. I promise you that. You can probably lift it all the way off the upside down into the stratosphere if you want to. We have both types of hookups for our trailers, which is very common, but there it is, and it's pretty easy to get to. Not as easy as on the latest model pickup trucks, but it's plenty easy enough. So anyway, that is our 2025 6th generation 4Runner TRD Pro underside rear suspension, and it's beautiful. This is the kind of thing that you want to see if you want a true off-road capable vehicle. Wow, we just look at that. Here's our front suspension. This would be the driver's side, and it's very impressive. We have a massive Fox shock absorber. Looks like your QS3 maybe. I don't know where. Maybe if I hit it with the laser, it'll. Oh, never mind. But here's our drive shaft. Here's our lower control arm. Here is our, look at this, by the way. This is our upper control item, also known as the swing arm. No, it's not known as that. It's not known as anything. It's the upper control arm for the suspension. And here we have a beautiful link that is aluminum that goes down to our lower part of the structure, as far as we have a A-arm and then an A-arm, and then in the middle is our coil over shock absorber situation. And even the coils are beautiful. Look at that bright red. It's advertising, but look there. There's your adjustments. You can adjust. If you are into the adjustments, there they are, right there. Real hard to get to, right? Jeez, it's just right there. So we do have some adjustability in these shocks, and in the rear ones, I think. I'm not going to go digging around because I don't know what these are set on. Oh, look at this. I don't know where exactly it's set on. I should examine it, but the fact that you have adjustments. I have a Fox shock on my 1991 Honda VFR 750. I have a Fox shock on that, but that means nothing to you unless you're a motorcycle. But we have lots of travel, and like I mentioned before, we have our disconnecting sway bar situation. So, and where is that thing attached? It's attached. Where's the device? Where have I done with it? Oh, here it is. It's actually, it attaches way in the back here, on the back side here, and then comes around, and then the actual actuators are back there underneath the skid plate. And we do have copious amounts of skid plates covering everything. This is great. This big aluminum piece here is your TRD Pro skid plate. The Trail Hunter comes with a different one, as I recall. But it's very, very easy to take it off and get to your oil filter, which is right there, right there. It's in the same location on the V6 5th generation, believe it or not. Roughly in that place. It doesn't stick out in that direction. The one in the 5th generation is a canister style, which you unscrew and then replace the element. and it faces straight down, but it's right there on the same basic part of the engine. So you can see all the stuff here, some of the beginnings of the stuff. And this right here, I think, that may be our electric power. That's either our electric power steering pump or the actuator for the sway bar deactivation. So, but look at how nice all the welding is and how smooth all this is. This is very nice and very solid. You can tell that it's really built to take some punishment if necessary, but don't punish it. Use it, don't punish it. But this is our front suspension, and it's a real impressive. The thing about this vehicle, like I said before, it does so well off-road and really absorbs. You got a lot of suspension travel, and you got really good compliance off-road. But on the road, it's a bit of a different story. So, what would happen if this was adjusted? I can't quite read that because here. I'm gonna grab the light. Look at there. It says, I don't know. Hopefully that's in the owner's manual somewhere. It'll tell you what to do. But it doesn't mention, I don't think, in the Monroney itself, the fact that it's adjustable. The suspension is adjustable, but it sure looks like it to me. And if I read the Monroney more carefully, maybe I will determine that. But like I said, everything here is built and built some more to take punishment in the event that that happens. I don't know what that noise was or where it come from. Well, that's weird. But anyway, anything else you want to know about this? Well, it's nicely made. Our front recovery hooks look pretty damn stout to me, and there are two of them. And this is the difference right here between a recovery hook and just a location hook. This hook here is what they'd put on the boat to secure it so that it don't move around on the boat. But this is what you would use to pull the vehicle out in the event of or pull another one out by backing up using some kind of recovery. So like you could have your snatch strap, you could have your standard towing strap, you could have your rope. How hard would it be to put a winch on this thing? That's one of the first things I was thinking about. I'm sure they'll come up with something. You can see, give me that light, give me that. You can see all our, that looks like the radiator itself. Where is the intercooler? Well, the intercooler may be behind it, it could be anywhere, the intercooler. Oh, there's our serpentine belt. Hello, serpentine belt. I'm not sure where it is exactly, but there has to be one because you can't do reasonable turbocharging without it. So that is most likely the radiator, and unless there's something all the way forward here, which I don't see, that's probably, it's interesting because the Tundra iForce Max has, I'm talking about it's not the Max parts, both of them, that have they both are turbocharged, so it looks like on the Tundra they have two separate, one for each cylinder bank, or one for each turbocharger, I should say, intercooler, and then there's an intercooler sitting on top of the engine. There is no intercooler sitting on the top of this engine, so I'm assuming it's back in this mess here somewhere. There is a cooler for a heat exchanger, if you will, for your turbocharger. So, and there's only one on this one. But there you go. Constructed in a robust manner. This is your TRD Pro 2025 Toyota 4Runner front suspension. Okay, here is your 5th generation. Got some miles on it. And it's been in the Northeast its entire life, so it's had to deal with salt. Your rear suspension end. The thing is, it's incredibly similar to the 6th generation. One thing I think is interesting is it looks like the differential is actually, for lack of a better term, it's higher off the ground than on the other one. The other one does have that wonderful differential skid plate, which is great, but it looks like this old axle is, the differential is actually much smaller. or just the configuration of it and the way it's built is a little bit different. But overall, I mean, we see great similarity. Where's the device? I just had on, oh, here it is. Like with the sixth generation, here's our pan hard rod right there. Here is our front link right there. It's interesting, there's that little thing on there. I've never noticed that before. I don't know what that does. And our shock absorbers are this way. I have aftermarket shocks. I have Bilstein 5000s. 5000. This came with just the regular, I can't remember the name of the manufacturer. But they were good. The stockers were good, but they just started aging the way stockers do. And here, wow, it looks like that's torn up. Huh. Is it? Nah. Oh, let's look. Oh, wow. Yeah, the boot looks like it's come down here, huh? How about you? How about your boot? I may have to play with that. Or not. It's not leaking, is it? Let's get closer. Let's look. Huh. Yeah, I could probably fix that. I don't see any leaking yet. Boy, that would stink, wouldn't it? But anyway, here, welcome to my maintenance. We have an is it the anti-sway bar? Yes, it is right there. And it comes all the way around there and attaches up there. I believe that's almost identical in configuration to the newbie, the sixth generation. But as you can see, there's some rust here, but it's not too awfully bad after 11 years of salt. And it's holding its own. They tend to just suddenly go all at once when they start to rust up. It's terrible. It's tragic. But here's our naked differential. Here is our steel skid plate, and as you can see, the fuel tank's on the driver's side as opposed to the passenger side of the new one. Don't know why that is. Here's a nice big cross beam right here, just like on the newbie. And then we have a box frame on both sides. And like I said, I got a lot of the goo you're seeing is genuine goo from WD-40 gel or something that I've sprayed up in here. I'm always trying to fight the rodents and the rust, the R&R. They're the only things that will bring this thing down, are those two things. As you can see, like with the sixth generation, we have very good ground clearance, very substantial. Lower A-arms on our front suspension. And everything else is, like I said, they haven't radically changed anything. Because it's a good design the way it was. It's a good, straightforward thing. And so the changes have been minor, but they're probably deeper than they look. I'd still say there's probably no parts that are actually shared between the two, but the basic design philosophy of how it works is the same. And right around here is our trailer hitch, which is also really stout. I've towed many times. The two different trailer hooks or hookups are right here, a little further over. Full-size spare tire, just like on the new one. And that's it. Plenty of ground clearance. Like I said, more than you might have thought. The running boards always give the impression that the thing's lower to the ground than it is. And these aren't. These are just standard bolt-on, came with the vehicle running boards. So you have to be careful in certain off-road situations not to prang them. And I don't go out and just drive off-road just for fun. I've never done that. I drive off-road to get where I need to get, and a lot of times where I need to get is difficult to get to. And then there's the farm itself, which that requires me to get places sometimes that are very difficult to get to, but I can do it in this thing. I've never touched wood. Where's wood? Here's some wood. I have wood back here. Here's wood right here. Look, wood. Touch wood. I've never gotten this thing stuck. It's always been able to get itself out. And that's probably the reason I've been a 4Runner owner almost nonstop, except for about 2 years, around 2010 or 11, something like that. Not sure exactly when it was. I've always owned 4Runners, the 88, the 97, and now this 14. And something else that blows me away about this, we bought our Tundra and this vehicle on the same, like 2 months apart, brand new 2014 models. And we've already had to replace a bunch of the exhaust on the Tundra, and I'm about to have to do it again, and more of it, more of the pipage that goes up right coming out of the catalytic converter's back. All that's going to have to be replaced. It's going to cost a lot of money too. This vehicle, however, the exhaust system on it looks excellent. It looks, look at how good the muffler looks. There's no huge gaping rust everywhere. And this vehicle was built in Japan, and the Tundra was built in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm willing to bet the exhaust suppliers are different exhaust suppliers, and for whatever reason, the one they use in Japan is just a higher grade of stainless steel. I believe that. Prove me wrong, Toyota. But the night and day difference between how this exhaust system is held up compared to the exhaust system on the other truck is amazing. And of course, I have all the little heat shields that look like pie tins, and almost all of them have fallen off. And the reason they've fallen off is because the bolts that have affixed them to the underside of the body have rusted and fallen out, so they fall out. And they rattle and they make a lot of noise until you can find them and either reinforce them, which I've got a few that are still in place that I've reinforced, or you can just get rid of them altogether. In the Northeast, we don't have the kind of temperatures that I would worry about them getting too overly hot. And so, you know, that's the way it is. But otherwise, this top marks to the exhaust system lasting, because it's done really well. The whole truck's lasted pretty damn well, to be honest. And like I said, the mileage is not high. It's about 80,000, which is low for a vehicle like this, because I have other vehicles I'm driving all the time, and the motorcycle, and the horse. Oh wait, I don't use the horse for transportation. That's not true. But anyway, body on frame construction, rock solid, just like the 6th generation. Very, very similar design with a few notable differences. And note the size of this gas tank, 23 gallons, not 19. How does that happen? I have replaced that skid plate, and I have replaced the front skid plate, because this one was replaced because of an interaction with a rock. But I don't think a poly or a plastic shield would have protected the fuel tank as well, if at all, compared to that rock. Basically, the skid plate sacrificed itself to protect my fuel tank and me. So there you go. Well, if you made it all the way here, I admire you, but you must be serious about thinking about a 4Runner. And hopefully this will help guide you into whether you want to go 6th generation or 5th generation. As for the 6th generation, our MSRP on our 4Runner TRD Pro is $66,900 with all the options, including expensive things like the onboard compressor and an ARB roof rack platform, which is also very expensive. Our total sticker came to $73,388. So this is a tough one because there's such interesting vehicles. The new 6th generation is a lot like the 5th in all the right ways, but if I'm going to be real honest with you, and I am, I much prefer the old V6 to the new turbocharged hybrid inline 4, because it just didn't feel right to me. But that could be it, because I've spent a lot of time in the 5th generation, and that is my experience. But if you're going to look at these things, think about the fact that the 5th generation is already established and the 6th is brand new. So let that be part of your decision. You guys take care out there. We'll have another review up for you real quick. I'm trying to get them out faster. Take care.
You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.